This message was brought to you by the Socialist Party.
I'm Fred Membe, President of the Socialist Party, and I strongly condemn political violence. Our poor youth must not be used to fight political battles. At the Socialist Party, we stand for peace.
For the most accurate and balanced news, we are a credible and trusted news source. We are KBN Television. Catch us live on Topstar Channel 102. And remember to like our page KBN TV on Facebook for all breaking news. KBN, the finest television.
A lovely good evening and welcome to KBN Main News at 19:30 hours. We take a look at the headlines. MMD heaps blame on ECZ for political tension in the country. UPND Alliance confident of winning Thursday's general elections. Alebwele Lapo, Mafinga chiefs assure the ruling PF. UN unveils landmark report on climate change. FAS unveils intermediaries for 2021-2022 season. With the main news in detail, I'm Tapelo Joe Smarter. The opposition New Hope Movement for Multi-Party Democracy, MMD, has refuted claims by the ruling Patriotic Front PF claiming to be in an alliance with the MMD, stating that it is illegal and meant to misinform and disadvantage the MMD party and its presidential candidate in the Thursday polls. MMD President Dr. Nevas Mumba says the party has written 2 complaint letters to the Electoral Commission of Zambia, ECZ, concerning the same matter. However, the commission has delayed in responding and taking action. Dr. Mumba says the inability for ECZ to be unfair and non-partisan is the major source of conflict in the country, stating that ECZ lacks professionalism in their conduct of executing duties. He has further appealed to Zambian citizens to vote using their conscience and cast their votes on a presidential candidate that will present their morals and values.
So I can pull out of the presidential race. This assertion does not only seek to dent my integrity, but also, but it doesn't even make sense in itself. The threat to withdraw that the MMD had made to ECZ in our meeting was based on the criminality of the PF and ECZ failure to charge them for the criminal behavior of interfering with my candidacy. Yes. It's the fight between us and the PF that made us say to the ECZ, if you don't manage PF, there's no point in remaining on the ballot because it will distort our results. Yes, sir. It will distort the voting process because our members will vote for a candidate who is not their candidate because they have lied to that candidate. And we ask ECZ to clarify, correct that. And we call on the international community to talk to the ECZ to take up their responsibility. PF must tell the nation using ZNBC, because we can't use ZNBC, and correct the evil that they have spread across this country. As I speak, groups of PF and people are in provinces with T-shirts. In front, it's the MMD emblem, and at the back, it's PF emblem. And the president is here. I've never signed any alliance with the PF. Even if you love us as a party, you can't love a woman without going to her. And just going around the country says, you can't. So much movement politically towards the election. And some people are going to vote with the wind, not with their hearts. They will not vote for the leader of their choice because the wind would have blown their vote in a totally different direction. I want to say, as Miles Monroe said, vote with your conscience, because that conscience will go to bed with you. And for you believers, that conscience is the Holy Ghost. because the Spirit of God will torment you for making a wrong decision. Leaning, your belief, you vote for your values. The person you vote for is part of who you are. They reflect who you are. So to say, no, I won't vote for Nevas Mumba because...
Opposition United Party for National Development, UPND Alliance partner, Movement for National Transformation, MNT President Dr. Daniel Shimunza has accused Republican President Edgar Lungu of using the church for the last 7 years in authority for deceptive purposes to remain in power. Dr. Shimunza says it is unfortunate that some of the members of the clergy have opted to defend President Lungu instead of standing with the weak in society. He says the weak in society have suffered at the hands of the PF's poor economic policies, corruption, and abuse of human rights. Speaking at a joint media briefing by the alliance partners in Lusaka, Dr. Shimunza says if President Lungu is a Christian, as he purports to be, he would have defended the values of Christianity and the provisions of Article 8 of the Constitution, which he is abrogating. He says no Christian president would watch the democratic space deteriorate under his rule and allow the opposition oppressed in the manner the PF administration is oppressing the opposition in the run-up to this week's Thursday pause.
Lungu hails from. What we have seen in the last 7-8 years of President Lungu's administration is that he has used the church for deceptive purposes to remain in power. And it's unfortunate that we have some of the members of the clergy, instead of standing with the weak in society, the people, the poor people that have suffered under the corruption, deception, and abuse of human rights. These members of the clergy that are day in and out defending President Lungu, I don't know which Bible they read. If Jesus walked the streets of Lusaka today, I don't think he'll stand with the PF, because Jesus always identified with the weak, the oppressed. And the UPND Alliance is the only alternative in this election that we are going into to liberate the Zambian people from the abuse of human rights and the failure to live up to the church.
Meanwhile, UPND Alliance chairperson Charles Milupi says the alliance is confident of carrying the day on Thursday, August 12. Mr. Milupi says the Electoral Commission of Zambia, ECZ's supervision of the 2021 elections leaves much to be desired.
Complaints have been received, as I've said, of boxes being tampered with, and also ballot paper delivery, not accompanied by all stakeholders, and sometimes delivered at guest houses, which are owned or operated by non-PF sympathizers and supporters. We have also received complaints with regard to a number of electoral officers who clearly they are non-sympathizers of PF. Where is ECZ? Where is the leveling of the playing field in this particular regard?
Zambia's fourth Republican President, Rupia Banda, has urged aspiring candidates in the forthcoming general elections to accept the outcome of the elections and respect the choice of the electorate. Mr. Banda notes that every election has a winner and loser, stating that any attempt by any entity to impose leadership would be an assault on the law and may jeopardize the peace that Zambia has continued to enjoy. The former head of state has since emphasized on the need to maintain peace and unity in the country as it heads to a pause this week.
To remind the contestants in this year's elections that every election has winners and losers. Any attempt by any entity acting alone or in concert with others to impose a leadership outside the concept of one man, one vote will be an assault on the sacrifices of our founding fathers and will imperil the sovereignty and the independence of the country, and also jeopardize the peace and unity of this generation and those to come. We have chosen for ourselves a system that gives legitimacy to those in government through the ballot box. To our friends who have come from afar and near to observe this election, this is a noble and widely accepted role and practice in modern democracies. Monitors and observers ensure transparency and integrity of the elections. Indeed, our foreign friends are welcome, and we have no doubt about their competence and professionalism in this kind of undertaking. As Zambians, we have great confidence in the governance institutions we have created for ourselves. The Electoral Commission of Zambia, therefore, in this instance, must be given space and necessary cooperation.
Traditional leaders in Mafinga district of Mchinga province have assured the ruling Patriotic Front PF that President Edgar Lungu will get maximum votes from the area in Thursday's general election. Chiefs Muyombe and Mwenechfungwe have attributed this to a head of state's resolve of not leaving the people of Mafinga behind in his trajectory to develop all corners of the country. The two chiefs have cited hospitals, schools and clinics as being some of the key infrastructure President Lungu has gifted the people of Mafinga. The traditional leaders made the remarks when ruling Patriotic Front PF member Joe Malanji paid a courtesy call on them at their palaces. He said, meanwhile, Mr. Malanji has thanked the people of Mafinga through the traditional leaders for being supportive to government. He said government will ensure that necessary requirements in key sectors such as education and health are put in place. Mr. Malanji has since noted that the people of Mafinga to continue having proper representation, it can only be done by giving the ruling PF another mandate at all levels.
What we need in our area are peaceful campaigns and developmental. So whenever one is campaigning, you know that you campaign peacefully. You unite the people. So as we have seen here in our constituency, there have not been any problems. So there may be, if there would be problems, we would say that problems have come with few people who have come in. But otherwise, according to the MPs or the councillors, what have you, they've all been campaigning peacefully. And one thing we are still thankful to our President Edgar Lungu, for the development he has done in our district. You know, this is just a new district. Otherwise, he has done a lot of development of what hospitals, of what schools, of what clinics, and at the moment we're expecting to have electricity any time from now. Thank you on that one. So, as the PF also says, we're not going to leave anyone behind, which is the same thing with us. We're saying we're not going to leave our president behind. So now, we're insisting. And we're very sure to say from all around here in the constituency, I'm sure the president is there to get 100%.
Foundation for Democratic Process, FODEP, has expressed disappointment in some traditional leaders who are advocating and supporting political parties, stating that their duties should be to the local people and not politicians. FODEP Executive Director George Membe has also called on organizations that are in the habit of inflicting political parties on citizens to shun away from the act, stating that individuals have the right to choose their befitted candidates, adding that organizations should allow citizens exercise those rights.
We have a problem with organizations that become partisan, you know, and endorse a particular candidate, because we think that this is politically immoral. This is an organization, and we give an example of, let's say, a church, and then you have a pastor who wants to impose a candidate on the congregants. I think that is politically immoral, and it must be condemned. I think organizations like the union, trade unions, these are market associations, civil society, we need to be neutral, we need to remain impartial, and we shouldn't be seen to be siding with any candidate. Grab this opportunity even to speak to our traditional leaders that for them it is even criminal. In the Electoral Code of Conduct, they are not expected to be partisan. First of all, constitutionally under Article 168 of our Republican Constitution, chiefs are not supposed to be partisan. If they are to be partisan or they are appointed to a political...
Government, through the Ministry of Youth and Sports, today donated various farming inputs to 5 youth cooperatives in Kalulushi. The donated items, which are worth 277,000 kwacha, were handed over by the Kalulushi District Commissioner, Stephen Kainga. Our staffer, Womba Kasela, was in Kalulushi and brought us this report.
The government, through the Ministry of Youth and Sports, today donated farming inputs to over 100 youths in Kalulushi. The donation, which is worth 277,000 kwacha, was handed over by the Kalulushi District Commissioner, Kainga Stephen. He has since urged the youths to utilize the donated items to great use.
Utilize these materials to the best of your ability so that at the end of the day, you can realize something which can be so ideal to your livelihood. If we can have youths of your caliber who are thinking positively like this, I think this country will not lag behind in terms of food security.
And in receiving the donated items, one of the youths from 5 cooperatives has since thanked the government for the good gesture.
We just want to thank the government, of course through the offices of the DC and also the DAO, for the gesture that they have just shown us. Indeed, the government is talking about diversifying the economy a little bit away from copper to other sectors like agriculture and other endeavors. So we just want to say thank you for whatever that the government has done. I'm sure the items have come at a very good note, and we are going to use them accordingly.
Womba Kasela for KBN News in Kalulushi.
Womba Kasela there in Kalulushi, thank you for the report. You are still watching main news on the Finest Television. We take our first set of commercials. Join us for more news when we come back.
My name is Harry Kalawa. I am the presidential candidate for the Democratic Party in this year's elections. Zambia as a country has been divided and polarized along regional lines. Today, we are more divided than we were in 1964 when we got our independence. There is no need to ask somebody's tribe in this country. What is required now is to look out for the character in people. Look out for the best in individuals. Because once we fish out the best in individuals, then Zambia as a country will emancipate. We wish you the very best and hope that on the 12th of August, you and I and the Democratic Party will make a date. I thank you and may God bless you.
Giving birth to my firstborn son was a challenge, not because of maternal complications, but because the health center was so far away. Today, the newly built health center is only meters away. So with my second-born, it was so much easier. My aunt and my best friend were even there to witness her birth. As a mother, access to antenatal and postnatal health care is a priority. That is why I commend the PF government for bringing quality health care near our homes.
Welcome back. We continue with the main news. The Electoral Commission of Zambia, ECZ, on July 28, 2021 and August 2, 2021, announced the indefinite suspension subject to review of campaign activities in Sioma, Ikelenge and Lusaka's Kanyama constituency respectively. The suspension was due to electoral violence despite the guidance provided by the Commission. Following review, the Commission would like to inform the media and members of the public that it has lifted the suspension of campaign rallies in Sioma, Ikelenge and Lusaka's Kanyama constituency effective midnight today. The affected political parties or candidates are further advised to adhere to Electoral Code of Conduct when conducting any campaigns. Further, all political parties are guided to abide by the Electoral Code of Conduct and COVID-19 guidelines issued by the Electoral Commission of Zambia, ECZ. All this is contained in a statement issued by ECZ Corporate Affairs Manager Patricia Luhanga and made available to KBN TV News. Life Brand Managing Director Israel Kembo says the country has improved in its castor bean production over the past 1 year. Dr. Kembo says the castor bean production is a catalyst in the reduction of import beans.
Zambia, as you know, that it's now over a year while we have embarked on castor production. It is coming out okay. We are now in pre-season for 2021-2022 season. People should take advantage of getting their inputs on time to avoid the rush. Then you start to do your land preparation and all. As you might be aware that the benefits of castor bean is very vast. You can derive a lot of products for up to about 3,600 byproducts in castor bean production. Our castor production is a catalyst to help in reduction of import beans. We are importing lubricants, we are importing diesel as a country, we are importing cosmetics as a country, we are importing various products in pharmaceutical. But if we grow our own castor, we end up having value chain industries that can produce those products. So the thrust now is with the farmer to produce or to work under the primary production chain to produce the castor bean for industrial use. The industries are waiting to take up that production for as a throughput for industrial use. Then at processing, we are able to export finished products, and then we are also able to consume the other products locally, therefore in turn.
An economic expert has advised the incoming government after the August 12 general elections to deal with the economic challenges the country has been facing in the past few years. Yusuf Dodia says there is need for the incoming government to fight the inflation and economic development in the country so as to compete with other manufacturing countries.
We come to the elections where post-elections, after the elections, one expects that the government of the day after August 2021 is going to have to deal with these issues. The issue of fighting inflation, which is running at about 24%. The issue of strengthening the kwacha, the issue of supporting domestic economic development, in other words, supporting private companies to flourish and pay taxes, so that government can collect enough taxes to finance the national budget, rather than looking at 30% of the budget being funded by foreign financing and grants, which puts us subordinate to some of our funders who want us to change certain conditions in our economy before they give us this money. Now, these are all the things that would have to be tackled, and whatever government forms after August and starts to look at the economy, these are the challenges they will have to face. Now, does that mean that the economy will improve? I think it all depends on what our leadership decides to do.
Operation Young Voter (OYV) has continued to intensify its efforts in educating young people, particularly the disabled, on voter education and civil awareness. OYV Acting Executive Director Isaac Mwale says the move is to encourage young people to take part in this week's general election and vote wisely. Mr. Mwale charges that there is need to ensure that disabled people are fully educated before the country heads to a polls.
As Operation Young Vote, we've been in the field for some time now, since this particular electoral cycle started, and we've conducted a number of campaigns with regards to the participation of the young people, the women, people living with disabilities, and the general electorate in those different stages of the electoral cycle. We started by encouraging the young people to access and obtain the NRCs, and we contributed to the morale of the young people, but also to the interest to obtain those NRCs. But we didn't stop there. We went ahead to encourage them to register as voters, especially those who are eligible. And we also did the campaign to educate them and sensitize them so that they are aware of the importance of registering as voters. This time around, we've carried activities stemming from those two stages, where we've been educating the young people, the general electorates, women, as well as people living with disabilities, to see to it that there is that popular participation from these demographic groupings. And going forward, remaining these few days between now and the 12th of August, we've intensified our activities, and we have the young people in the communities conducting door-to-door campaigns, but also conducting the public addresses using the megaphones, so that even those who are not sure at the moment to participate and cast their vote gets encouraged and gets interested to participate by casting that vote.
You are still watching main news on the Finest Television. We take our second set of commercials. When we come back, join us for foreign and sports news.
Time, the progression of events from the past to the future, moving forward to see what the future holds and what can be achieved. Zambia has limitless potential that has to be cultivated by every Zambian, giving each person a chance to succeed in their own respective society. Time has come to restore the hope that many Zambians have lost. Time to repair the patience that many Zambians have showed. The time for the long-awaited change, bringing more jobs, prosperity, and economic emancipation to our beloved country, Zambia. Vote Harikalava for President. This message is brought to you by the Democratic Party.
I never really knew the benefits of cooperatives until officials from the Edgar Chagbalungu Multi-Purpose Empowerment Cooperative came to talk to us. They taught us how to work together in groups. It was easier to be empowered as a group than as an individual. Some groups are in agriculture, others in aquaculture, some in block making. Us were in poultry. With the support of the PF government, we're expanding our business and creating wealth for our families.
Welcome back, and now in foreign news. Heating from humans has caused irreparable damage to the earth that may get worse in coming decades, a UN climate report has concluded. Humanity's damaging impact on the climate is a statement of fact. UN scientists have found in unprecedented research combining more than 14,000 studies. The past 5 years have been the hottest on record since 1850. Extremes including heat waves have become more frequent and more intense since the 1950s, while cold events have become less frequent and less severe. The authors also show that a rise in sea levels approaching 2 meters by the end of this century cannot be ruled out. More details on this story we monitor at the BBC.
It is unequivocal that human activities are responsible for climate change. That's the finding of a new study by the UN's Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. It's the most up-to-date assessment of how global warming will change the world in the coming decades. Environmental experts have called it a massive wake-up call to governments to cut emissions. 234 authors from 66 countries have worked on the landmark assessment. The report says global average temperature rise could reach or exceed 1.5 degrees Celsius in the next 20 years. Now that is 10 years sooner than expected. That temperature rise will breach the ambition of the 2015 Paris Climate Agreement and bring widespread devastation and unprecedented extreme weather. This all comes less than 3 months before the COP26 climate conference in Glasgow in Scotland, vital UN talks that will determine the future course of efforts to tackle climate change. And the UK minister responsible for delivering COP26 has released this statement following the publication of today's report. He says, "Our message to every country, government, business and part of society is simple. The next decade..."
And finally, in sports news, the Football Association of Zambia, FAZ, has unveiled 24 licensed intermediaries for the 2021-2022 season after a rigorous selection process. According to a list unveiled to the FAZ media and made available to KBN TV News, the 24 are the ones authorized to deal with matters regarding player transfers for the coming season. According to Article 3A of the FIFA regulations on working with intermediaries, it is an offense for clubs and players to work with unregistered intermediaries. FIFA's regulations on working with intermediaries come into force on April 1, 2015. As described in FIFA Circular 1417, the regulations on working with intermediaries, also referred to as the intermediary regulations, require FAZ and all FIFA member associations, among other things, to implement a registration system for intermediaries. And that sporting item brings us to the end of tonight's edition of Main News on KBN TV. But before we go, we take a recap of stories that made headlines. MMD heaps blame on ECZ for political tension in the country. UPND alliance confident of winning Thursday's general election. Alebwe Elelapo, Mafinga chiefs assure the ruling PF. UN unveils landmark report on climate change. FAZ unveils intermediaries for 2021-2022 season. That ends tonight's bulletin. On behalf of the entire newsroom team and production team, I'm Tapelo Joe Smarter. Good evening, God bless, and pleasant evening.